flossing with that
drop. KCP in the middle, bounce Larry in there. Throw that baby down. Oh my goodness.
What hard? Are you kidding? With some anger.
Kyrie get out of that double team with the hip fake. What a move by Hakeem Olajuwon.
Levine, he goes right.
Oh! Does anybody know how to post videos?
Welcome back in to the Drop Step Podcast. Home team, B-Dog and Book the Hook. We are here as the NBA playoffs and second round action is almost complete in the second round. Coming up next, the conference finals. Some really good games. We got a lot to get to in this episode of the podcast. A man says Kawhi Leonard is just better than Kobe Bryant at the end.
Idiot.
It must be addressed. The Warriors. Are they just fine, or are they in trouble? Not just for this series, but for the future. We'll get into that. Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors are handling business, but they've been doing that, and they still aren't getting credit for it. We'll get to that. Joel Embiid needs some Robitussin, NyQuil, Dayquil, something to make him feel better. He has to be better. We'll get to that, but a lot to get to, fellas. First, we're being treated to great NBA postseason action in the second round, as we will get at least 3 game sixes, and we will have one series that will come to an end very soon. And when you're talking about the Bucks and the Celtics, but you look at how these game sixes came about, really close games, a quadruple overtime game, an overtime game with the Rockets and the Warriors. Just great stuff for NBA fans of the franchises that are in it. And if you want to try to bring new eyes to the sport, not a bad way to introduce new fans and new friends to the game of basketball.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of the series that is going to be coming to an end very, 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 very soon, the Celtics and Bucks. I got to give a shout out to Charles Barkley. He's the one that said that the Celtics would not win another game in this series, and by doggone, boy, he might be right. This is a gentleman's sweep. They're going fishing quite early, and it doesn't vote well for Kyrie Irving and his future in Boston.
The boys better finally put some respect on Milwaukee's name around the league, man. I know they number one team in the East, best record in the NBA, yet they thought a team that showed no sign of solidarity, no sign of chemistry the entire year was going to knock them off. So I found that completely ridiculous. So I'm happy to see Milwaukee where they're at. And I hope they go ahead and get this thing over with tomorrow. Is it tomorrow night or tonight on that one?
It's tonight.
Tonight. Go ahead and get this thing over with tonight.
Tonight is the big night. Then you got Golden State in Game 5 for them tonight.
Let's get it done.
Was there anything that could be done? I mean, did the Celtics have a shot? They were supposed to. It was a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They didn't have Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward last year. So you're thinking with the experience they got, a lot of young guys, a lot of deep rotations being used last year. This year, it would be better for the Celtics with Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving showing up, and that's not the case. Kyrie and Gordon Hayward have not delivered. And, you know, the bottom line is Kyrie is supposed to be the leader and supposed to put the team on his back and help the other guys get better. That hasn't happened. And Kyrie is supposed to have the monster games to keep his team afloat, and he hasn't done that. So was there anything that could have been done, or is this disappointing because Kyrie and Gordon Hayward have not handled business?
Well, last year it was addition by subtraction. The ball moved a little better. It wasn't, you weren't worrying about, okay, am I taking away a shot or taking away shots from this other guy? Or is this guy taking away shots from me? It was, we're going to play in the Florida offense. We're going to run the floor. We'll get it to the hot hand. We're just going to play the way we need to play. And plus they were playing with house money because no one thought with Kyrie out, with Gordon Hayward out, that they were ever going to get as far as they did. And I mean, one game away from the NBA Finals. And I think you got to think that those young guys are maybe smiling a little bit, thinking that, this could be Kyrie's last game. Because it's like, look, we understand how talented he is. We understand that he's won a championship. We understand that he's been somewhere we've never been. But at the same time, we were one game out, and we feel as though we can build on that based off what we've done.
The easiest answer to your question, home team, is there anything that they could have done is no. There's absolutely nothing they could have done. I don't see this as a disappointment. I know a lot of people, it's logical to think that, based on the team that they had last year, adding 2 All-Stars in Gordon Hayward and Kyrie, that things would improve. And that's logical. But that never manifested itself anywhere during the entire season. So I don't think there's anything that they could have done whatsoever, especially going up against the number 1 team, a Coach of the Year candidate, and an MVP candidate. I think they were just completely outmatched, and they didn't know what they were getting into completely.
I mean, it's weird to see. Like I said, you're getting Kyrie back. You get Gordon Hayward back. Gordon Hayward has been okay. But like I said, it's just addition by subtraction. You never thought you would see something like this because you're like, okay, you get Kyrie back, boom, everything's going to work out. But it's almost like you're hesitant because am I taking something away from him that he thinks he deserves or I think he deserves? And it messes with the flow of the offense. And we saw they went through that crazy rut during the season. Mm-hmm. And, obviously they got out of it a little bit, but they didn't necessarily come into the playoffs,
right,
on a good note.
That's my point.
Right. And so they come out like they do in game 1 and still home court advantage. And everybody's like, not everybody's off Milwaukee. Is this too much for Milwaukee? First timers, can they really overcome this? It's the experience showing up for the Celtics. Then game 2 happened.
Then game 3.
Then game.
No lie, game 1 may have been Boston's best game all year.
It was Kyrie's best shooting game.
That it's crazy to think about that. Kind of going back through their season, like that's what everybody expected of them from game 1 of the season,
right,
not game 1 of this series. That's what I mean, if I'd have seen that anywhere else throughout the season, then it'd have been a different conversation. But based on what they were doing in the regular season, I just didn't feel like there was any way that they would beat Milwaukee 4 games out of 7.
What is this going to do to Kyrie's legacy? He got out of Cleveland, forced his way out because he didn't want to be the little brother, the little less than superstar to LeBron James. They get him to Boston. He can fill out Boston, see if he wants to stay there. But I think what he's learning is he's not the superstar that some of the other stars around the NBA are. He's not doing what Kawhi Leonard is doing. He's not doing what KD is doing. He's not doing what James Harden's doing. He's not doing what Damian Lillard is doing. He's not doing what the other star players are doing, putting their teams on their backs and making sure that everything that can be done is being done. What is his legacy if this is going to be the final time we see him in a Celtics uniform where he'll probably go and team up with another superstar somewhere else in the league?
I think it's tough. It's one, and I think he kind of realized that when he kind of reconnected with LeBron during the season, understanding that where he was, he had the mindset. He didn't really understand what it took at that time when he was with LeBron, and it's just one of those, hindsight is 20/20. If I knew then what I knew now, things could possibly be different. He may have stayed in Cleveland. He may have, who knows? But he's never been that guy.
No.
He's always been an amazing Robin. And there's nothing wrong with that.
You took the words right out of my mouth, man. I think that Kyrie might be one of the best number 2s in the NBA. He can't be, and I heard Charles Barkley say this earlier, he can't be the best player on the team. If Kyrie is your best player, it's detrimental. This is what you're getting out of Kyrie being your best player. We're watching it unfold right now. He does need someone to be that, that alpha, that Batman to his Robin. He's an outstanding Robin. I don't think that he can do this on his own, which leads me to ask y'all this. How can they fix this? How can, if Boston wants Kyrie back, how do they fix it? It's kind of a closed-ended question because my answer is if you want Kyrie back, you have to get Anthony Davis.
Why would you want him back?
That's what I'm thinking.
Why he doesn't seem like he's been, indoctrinated in the Celtic green. His comments, he seemed aloof. He seemed like he's angry. I mean, all of his actions seem like he's ready to get out of Boston. Whatever it is, he doesn't like it. Why would you want him back? And then the way he's performed, not coming up with a 38-point game, a 46-point game like we're seeing these other stars do. Why, based on what you've seen, why would you want him for the next 3-4 years to pony up and lead you to where?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. I don't know. There's going to be some team that does it. Whether it's the right team that does it or whether it's a cash grab by Kyrie just getting a max contract out of wherever you can get it, I don't know. But I don't see a scenario where Boston should go all in on that. Just like you referenced earlier, B-Dog, with the run they were able to make last season with the young squad. I mean, why not double down on that for next year?
Put your eggs in the basket or your young squad. That means if Kyrie leaves, you're pretty much out of the Anthony Davis sweepstakes, because then you got to ask, well, what reason does Anthony Davis have to go there? From his perspective, I'm not saying that he couldn't believe in these young dudes, but these may not necessarily be the guys that he thinks can help get them over the hump and get them to the promised land. So the Celtics have assets. I don't know what they could use to move and get something back in return. We never know when free agency comes up how things happen. There's always a surprise move that happens. But it almost just seems as though they need to try to maybe get a second-tier free agent there and somebody who meshes well with the young guys they have, and then just go with what they have and try to move forward.
Let's play this scenario. As a Laker fan, are you opening Kyrie with open arms?
Yeah, there's right now it's one arm open. It's one of them one arm hugs. It ain't one of them big old bear hugs right now, but it's one arm right now because at least I know how he and LeBron have played together, and I know that dynamic.
For sure.
But at the same time, with that being said, there are also other dynamics that Cleveland had that the Lakers just don't have, and one of those dynamics is shooting. Now, does Kyrie add to that? Yes, but you need specialists out there. So the Lakers don't have specialists.
We've all seen Avengers, and we all know the Thanos role in Avengers where he says, "You just couldn't live with failure.
And
all your failure led you back to me." Which is exactly what I can see LeBron telling Kyrie later on this summer. You just couldn't live with the failure. Welcome to LA.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
And you know what? It is nothing wrong with being a top-notch Robin.
No.
It's because it's not. First of all, it ain't many Batmans in the league anyway.
Batman need Robin.
Right. That's just what it is. And it's okay. Without Robin, we wouldn't have Batman. Without Batman, we wouldn't have Robin. Everybody has a role to play. It's not a slight on your talent. It's not a slight on your ability. And I think sometimes people have to put their hands on the stove and get burned enough time to realize that, hey, this heat right here, this ain't for me. And it's not for everybody, and that's cool. Leave it up to the people that it's up to, and then be a part of something where you can take on a big role, but you don't necessarily always have to take on the responsibility that comes with it. And I think that's the type of guy that Kyrie is. Play a big role, do your thing, but when that heat start to come down, it doesn't always come down directly on you. And that's what it's like in Boston. The heat is coming directly down on him.
They did have a Robin, and Robin got paid. Gordon Hayward got a 4-year, $128 million deal. So he ponied up.
Yeah.
What is he doing? Coming off the bench, what is he doing? In a big game, the man is 1 for 5. What is that doing for the Celtics for $128 million? It looks like now maybe it's a situation where he isn't, I don't want to say fully recovered, but he isn't quite himself after his devastating injury that he suffered. But he's had enough time. He's out there playing. Did they overpay a guy who was just really good in a system when he was playing, in Utah, and he got him?
Got him. Man, he looked good against Indiana. I'll give him that. If he could have maintained his level of play in this series like he did in Indiana,
we would have looked good versus Indiana without Victor Oladipo.
Great point. I mean, I think that was the tilting, the tilting point right there. He's not able to do in this series what he was able to do in that series. So not having his, contributions, being able to count on that, I think that's a real big knock on what Boston is able to do against Milwaukee right now.
And he took advantage of the salary cap.
Absolutely.
And as you should do as a player, as the salary cap rises, what we look at as being overpaid is not necessarily overpaid anymore. So when we look at his contract, we're like, okay, that's fine for what they think he could be for them. Now, what he has been for them, obviously he did get injured, and we don't know the status of, how far along he is coming back from that injury. But as of right now, if we had to guess, has he kind of measured up to that contract? No, because he's literally been a magician. It's been a disappearing act, and it's not been enough people talking about that. It's been about Kyrie this, Kyrie that, and rightfully so. But you ain't pay chump change for Gordon Hayward. You went out, you signed him to a big deal, and you're expecting big production. And so I think there's some blame that needs to be kind of pushed his way that I think he's been kind of, navigating around. And that's fine. If I can get paid that way and not necessarily have to take on any level of the responsibility, then okay, cool. But I think a lot of people are kind of missing that because he's really been missing in action.
Yeah, and it's hurting the team. They're talking about starting him in Game 5. I think there's no reason why you shouldn't try everything you can, throw the kitchen sink, see if you can get a spark somewhere and get the thing back to Boston so that you can have a chance to play another day. The other side of the coin is, it's not like they're giving it away. They're choking it away. You're getting beaten up. And the defense and the ball movement and the three-point shooting of the Milwaukee Bucks, the coaching of the Milwaukee Bucks, you have to give Coach Bud a lot of credit. Without Malcolm Brogdon, they're finding a way to still play buck ball, and they're whooping on a team that is not as equally suited to go with them blow for blow offensively. So they're doing a very good job of playing to their strengths, not doing too much, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is taking over the games when he needs to and helping to close them out.
The Bucks are deep, man. Like, they got a squad. I really like how they're built, man. I know Giannis is the focal point of everything, but they surround him with some really good mid-tier players. Some guys that you don't expect to, they won't carry a team. But when you got Giannis carrying them, they got guys like, Mirotic chipping in with double digits each game. You got guys like Ilyasova coming through hitting clutch threes. It's a mirage. Like, everybody is getting theirs against Boston. Boston has no answer for all of the assets that Milwaukee's able to throw at them. There is no answer in any way that Boston can stop everything that Milwaukee can hit them with.
Yeah, and like you said, and we talked about this last week about the deeper team, the team with the more talent. Talent-wise, I still think it's Boston based off what I've seen, but the production level has been all Milwaukee and their level of depth that they've been able to throw at Boston, even without Malcolm Brogdon, who was a 50, 40, 90 type of guy. We hadn't seen him in weeks. And we don't know when we're going to see him moving forward. But the way that this team is playing without him, the way that Giannis is continually elevating his game to the next level, I mean, we're looking at another 2 years before we sit up here saying that he's the best player in the league, maybe another year. This is his coming out party.
Oh, for sure.
I think he'll be the MVP. No disrespect to James Harden, but the way that Giannis is leading this team, the thing that he couldn't do in game 1, which is get to the basket, they threw a lot of bodies at him. It hasn't worked thus far throughout this series. I don't know, obviously every game it's like a different series. Every game is different. No game is the same. So the fact that worked in game 1 and it hasn't been able to work throughout the rest of the series is interesting to me. And you would think a player with the talent that Giannis has, you would expect him to be able to adjust. And the fact that he's been able to adjust says a lot about his production and his growth.
I don't know what's the thing that can stop them other than a high-powered, high three-point shooting team. Because they move the ball so well, they always get good looks, and they look like they have some guys that are a little bit rugged. They're wired the right way to not be shaken by big moments. Now we have to see if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals or to the NBA Finals if that holds true. But it looks like they have a good group of guys that are tough, and it looks like they're in a position where there are only 2 or 3 teams, only maybe 2 teams, really hang with these guys and give them the business.
So I think that Milwaukee, the advantage that Milwaukee has over Boston right now is that they're able to play a fast-paced game as well as shrink the game down and play in a half court. If you get out and run, you're not going to be able to stop Giannis. Giannis is probably the most unstoppable player in the NBA with a full head of steam. He's going to hit you with – I need his spin move to get more recognition.
Yeah.
The way that James Harden's step back gets recognition around this league.
Oh, you talking about the travel? But go ahead.
The 1, 2, 3 paddle step. But Giannis, that spin move it's unstoppable. When he has a full head of steam and you lean one way, like, he is going to hit you with that spin move, and he's going to dunk that ball. He's going to hit you with a dunk. I think that's what they have in their advantage, the fact that they can get out and run and they can slow it down and play a half-court offense as well because they've got shooters. They've got other players that can play that type of ball. It doesn't have to be up and down, back and forth all the time for them.
I also got to give a shout out to Brook Lopez. The fact that, he's taking more threes than any big man in the league. He's knocked down more threes than any big man in the league. His ability to spread the floor, especially when he catches the ball right there at the top of the key, that knockdown three that he's hit so many times, I got to give him credit for being able to, to step out, bring the opposing center out, and force them to guard him. There was a play yesterday, I think it was a couple of days ago, where he told somebody to come out, and they didn't, and he knocked down the shot. And I'm like, the dude is telling you to come guard me, and you're not going to guard him, and he's going to knock down. His ability to do that at any given moment, it speaks well, and it speaks highly of what the Bucks can do moving forward. And the only team I can really see beat him, Toronto can give them a run for their money because they have Kawhi and the way he's leading them. But the only team that I can see really beating them is Golden State.
Speaking of Toronto, the whipping that they put on the 76ers, up by 40 at one point in the game, in Game 5. Joel Embiid, is he sick? How sick is he? What is the level of sickness? Can it be dealt with hydration? Is it vaccination?
We need to call the wizard.
Voodoo, shaman, whatever. It's the playoffs, man. Nobody wants to see a guy 7 feet, 270 pounds, talking about they don't feel well. So his legacy, just the way things have gone down, and it just like we point out things between Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, I think there's enough blame to go past Joel Embiid. It's also Ben Simmons. They are not dominating, taking over, being aggressive when they need to, and their team is paying a price for it. I don't know how long Joel Embiid is going to be healthy, and I think this is a really good window and good opportunity for this group with Tobias Harris and with Jimmy Butler, who won't be around forever maybe. The Sixers need to get their business together so that they can see if they can get back into the series and try to make a push to the Eastern Conference Finals, because this team moving forward might not have as sunny of a road moving forward.
Who was that in the Wiz? I mean, who was that in the Wizard of Oz who's going to see the Wiz that needed the heart?
That was the Tin Man.
Yeah. Where's the heart in this team? It's a lot of guys on this team that need some heart. Ben Simmons, where's your heart? Joel Embiid, okay, you may be a little sick, but I've seen, if you want to be considered one of the greatest players of all time, where you are right now, a lot of guys have played sick and have played with a level of heart that's gotten them over the hump.
You mean the flu game?
We could talk about whatever. Flu game, there have been a lot of other people who've had elements.
Show up.
Show
available.
up. Ball out.
I tell you what, man, the gap between Toronto and we talked about this during the regular season, the gap between Toronto and Milwaukee dropping down to Philly and Boston is a huge gap. Like, Boston and Philly are probably the two most, if I said those were bipolar teams, would you understand what I meant?
Absolutely.
Their highs are super high and their lows are super low. Right now, you see Embiid and Ben Simmons sitting over there just sulking. When 2 days ago, when they had the windmill dunk and they're doing jets out there in the paint, like, everything's sky high at that point. Like, you can't be like that, man.
They seem like front runners.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all good.
Absolutely.
It's showtime. It's all, look at us. It's, boy, look how easy things are. But when things get a little bit tough, or they're not going their way, or they're down 13 or down 17 or down 18, the whole thing, the whole chemistry, I agree, it doesn't look the same.
No, you punch them in the mouth and they don't know how to respond. They talk a big talk, like a big tough guy talk, like we're the Philly bullies, the representation of Philadelphia, we're the tough guys. But you get them in the right spot, all that goes away.
But that's that young squad in there.
Absolutely.
That's that youth where, when we're at a high, we're at a high. But when we're at a low, dog, we doing other stuff on the bench. We sitting up there checking text messages. We reading other stuff. It don't look like we in the game. But that's young dude stuff where, you don't know how to be even keeled through anything.
Right.
You don't know how to let people know that, okay, yeah, we lost, but it's not bothering us. We're getting ready for the next game. And even when we win, yeah, we won, but we still getting ready for the next game. That's the difference between a veteran-led team and a young team, being even keel across the board.
Does Embiid have another 5 years in him?
I don't know, which makes Mark Jackson's statement, and I saw where he was coming from, because he prefaced it with, if healthy, he could be, one of the greatest big men of all time. Yeah, I think he needs to dial that back a little bit because we don't know.
Right.
He's been hurt his entire career. There's been something wrong or off with him his entire career. And, to me, it's more of the optics this time. If you have a back or knee or ankle, that's one thing. The sickness, I think there would be better optics if he would go to the bench and turn around and he barfed up something, in a trash can and had an IV brought out to him. The optics of that looks better than 13 points and 8 turnovers.
Show me the baby. I don't care. Just show me the baby, man. Like I don't want to hear it. If you can put on a uniform and you're available, I need your best. Like I don't want the excuses. If you make yourself available to the team, I need your full availability to the team. Like not the, I'll give you what I got. Like, bro, I need you. We're depending on you. Joel Embiid is the Philadelphia 76ers. As he goes, they go.
You said something last week, and as I continue to watch this team, what you said becomes even more and more true. And they were talking about it early on ESPN, where when Joel Embiid has the ball out on the perimeter, you have to a guy is forced, especially an undersized guy, is forced to come out and guard him because of his ability to shoot the three. Whereas with Ben Simmons, it's the complete opposite. And he is virtually like the traditional big man out there on the perimeter because he cannot spread the floor. And it is so backwards the way that they have this team. And so they were talking about, forget if Embiid can make it another 5 years. They were talking about whether or not Ben Simmons would even be there, period. Can Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid coexist on the floor together because of Ben Simmons' inability to shoot the basketball?
I say no. I think Ben Simmons' inefficiencies and deficiencies in his game do not fit the deficiencies in Embiid's game.
I get cussed out when I bring up the fact that, man, it is, you can't be upset at a man who's reached all-star level as early as he has in his career, scoring the way he does and handing out assists the way he does, and he can't shoot. But if you can't shoot in today's NBA, you're not going to be primed to help your team all the time.
At least be respectable.
He couldn't help his team the other night when they got down 16 initially because he cannot hit a 15-footer, a 20-footer, or a three-point shot. And that is a problem when you can't shoot at all at his position. Even though he's unique and he can score and do other things, it is a problem the man cannot shoot the basketball in the NBA.
And it's one thing knowing that he can't, but he was still trying to in the game where you felt as though he had some level of confidence where, you know what, if I'm open, I'm going to at least attempt this thing. I'm going to try because ain't no way in the world you just going to simply disrespect me and have everybody just sitting in the paint waiting for this air ball to come down. But he can't do it. And the crazier part and the scarier part about it is he won't do it. He won't. I think he's only attempted one shot outside of the paint this entire series. That's crazy.
The last 4 games, he has not scored in double digits. Like that speaks volumes to me. Number one, we're in the playoffs now. Like the game is shrunk down. The game is much slower. You're not getting those fast break attempts that you got in the regular season. The other team wants to slow this down, take the air out of the basketball, make this as short of a game as possible. So you're effective. The things that you are effective at aren't available right now, So to be honest with you, Philly is in a really they're going to have to make some big-time decisions over the next years because your 2 cornerstones of your franchise, one can't stay healthy, the other one can't shoot the basketball.
Can't.
So they're going to have to make some real determinations. Are you going to go all in on the unhealthy guy, or are you going to go all in on the guy that can't shoot? Like you're going to have to I don't think they can coexist in the long run.
I'm gonna say this right here. If you're asking me which one I'd rather deal with, I could be wrong saying this, and I may get some backlash for it.
Speak on it.
Let me hear it.
But I think if they're going to choose, I think they end up sticking with Ben Simmons. And I'm gonna say this because at least the best ability is availability. And at least he's available to consistently work on his game. You can work on shooting the basketball. Jason Kidd did it. Jason Kidd didn't come into the league as the greatest shooter. He left a top 5 3-point percentage shooter of all time. But when you're as great as Embiid, but we don't know if you're going to be available, whether it be your back, whether it be your knees, whether it be the fact that you got this illness over here, this illness over there, all the illnesses up in your body at the same time. And then when you're on the floor, you give me the production that you've given me the last couple of games. I don't know how long I'm willing to deal with this. As great as you are, is the risk worth the reward? And I think with Ben Simmons, at least he's out there. You know what he can do. You know he's talented. You know he can facilitate the ball. You know he can rebound. He's basically 7 feet tall. He can do all that at the guard position. Can he shoot the ball? No. But that's on him working in the offseason, putting up 3, 4, 5,000 jump shots a day, getting comfortable in the shooting motion, having somebody out there with him that's pushing him a little more to get this down pat. Hey, this is where the league is today. You can't shoot it all. We need you to at least be respectable. I don't need you to be Steph Curry.
Or do you need to modify his game to the needs of the team? You need another point guard. Play, the whole 1 through 5 stuff is kind of out the window the way that 4s and 5s are yanking 3s these days. But, get another point guard and then utilize 2 point guards on the floor and utilize his post-up game. Do something. But the man not being able to shoot is not, to me, a championship move.
At all.
It is not a championship quality.
At all.
And not just shoot. Free throws, mid-range, three-pointers. There's a lot he can't do, but defensively at 6'10", he can alter some shots. He can get some steals. It's just hard to criticize a guy, but he's going to have weaknesses that are going to be exposed, and it's going to hurt his team if he can't hit some baskets.
And getting to the basket, we talk about how Giannis is an unstoppable freight train. Ben Simmons, when he get a head full of steam at 6'10", you can't stop him either. That's if he can get to the basket, though.
But they don't play like that because they can't play like that
with Embiid.
Yeah. That's why I say they can't coexist. That would cover up all of Ben Simmons' deficiencies, but then that would expose Embiid's deficiencies as not being able to keep up with that pace. So that's why I say I don't think they can't coexist. They're going to have to make some tough decisions in the next few years.
Somebody going to be gone.
Yeah.
Somebody going to be gone. I don't know which one it is, but somebody will be gone.
Well, it looked like Kawhi Leonard wasn't ready to go home. Didn't have his best game, but didn't have a bad one. He just wasn't otherworldly, but the Raptors played together as a team, contributions from all of the starters, and that was the reason why the Raptors were able to take control and they looked so strong. Kawhi, not having to do it all by himself. Kyle Lowry finally having, an imprint on the series a little bit later in the series. That was huge. He's not a scoring point guard, so he's going to have to do some other things and knock down the shots when the ball gets back to him. But helping to facilitate knocking down those shots were certainly big. And now the Raptors are a game away from punching a ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals.
It's Kawhi, Siakam, and then I guess whoever on any given night. Because I want to put in pen, I want to say Kyle Lowry. And that's what disappoints me about him. He is an all-star point guard. And I should not be getting the level of production that I have been getting from Kyle as an all-star point guard. I shouldn't, maybe he'll show up, that's not what I want associated with all-star, especially not in the playoffs. And he has been so disappointing. We talked about him putting up no points in the series, in the prior series, talking about, I can affect the games in other ways. Well, no, I need you to affect the game in the scoring department as well. I need you to do multiple things as my all-star point guard. Dudes want to be top tier in the league and always want their names mentioned in the best, in the top 5. But when it's time for you to put up and shut up, they shut up real quick. And that game shuts them up for him.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry, I'm glad that we finally saw him show up. It's been a disappearing act. Like you referenced earlier with the magician, he's been a magician as well, as usual. So it was nice to see him show up. Kawhi has been on a madman tear, and to see the team actually step up last night and kind of give him the support was nice to see. I think they had 6 people in double figures, which is, in the playoffs, that's a unbeatable formula right there.
Absolutely.
You put those numbers together, and that's a win right there. So I cannot wait for Toronto against Milwaukee. I hope I don't jinx this. I know I probably won't based on where we're sitting right now, But I think that series is going to be knocked down,
I'm with
dragged
you.
out. I need 7 games out of those cats.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Now, even though I still, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I did have Golden State and Milwaukee in the finals. So I'm thinking however long that series goes, I have Milwaukee winning it and representing the East. But boy, Kawhi could easily shift that whole thing. He hasn't shot under 61%, I don't think, in any game this series. 61%. That's crazy.
He knows his spots. He literally gets to where he wants to shoot the ball. Like, the defense does not dictate what he's going to do with the ball, which is amazing. Like, I love watching him play because he's an offensive force in the NBA. And I think that we may have forgotten about it based on him not playing last year, only playing 60 games this year.
He don't talk.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't get the media press, so he's not the guy that's out there, promoting himself like that. He signed a New Balance. That tells you all you need to know about him. He's a New Balance endorser. So to see him out there on this type of tear this is what I expected. I expected him to come out and carry Toronto. So it was nice to see last night Toronto kind of help him and show up for the rest of the squad.
Side note, I've heard somebody call him, I guess in response to, his level of corniness. Like I heard somebody say that he's the Russell Wilson of the NBA.
That's a good one.
Home team.
Russell Wilson's a champion.
No, right. But I'm talking about from.
Kawhi
I
is
like
too.
that kind of corny.
But Kawhi is a champion as well.
Yeah, Kawhi got his
Yeah.
ring.
I think Russ has a little bit more personality. He just doesn't have a lot of personality.
He just ain't got nothing to say.
He doesn't talk much. He doesn't have much to say.
He focused.
No,
he's
he just
got
plays
one
basketball.
focus.
I'm not knocking it. I just heard somebody say. I just want to see what y'all thought because I really wasn't all of the way there with it because of the dynamics. I just want to see what y'all hears was.
I see the compare. I like Kawhi just because, I think that Kawhi walks around on a daily basis and probably thinks of maybe a handful of other things outside of basketball.
Right.
And he's focused. He is laser focused, and I can appreciate it, man. I dig the cat. He ain't got nothing else going on but basketball.
And you talked about him picking his spots. I'm saying what spot on the court isn't his spot?
True.
Because you're shooting 61%. You can shoot from the third level if you want to, and I'm pretty sure he can knock him down from up there. 61%. If whatever you can get, go get it. And there's nobody that can stop him at any given time. So the battle between him and Giannis, that battle right there to see who represents the Eastern Conference in the finals, I'm with it. I'm waiting for it. I can't wait.
You mentioned something earlier too, home team, with gathering new fans to the NBA. This is what the NBA needs. I know round one was kind of lackluster, but this is seeing teams from smaller markets, from Milwaukee and Toronto, Denver. I know we'll touch on Denver here in a bit, but seeing these new faces in the NBA and making a run in the playoffs, I think this is what the NBA needs. Just getting a little bit more star power exposure and kind of spreading the wealth throughout the NBA.
And I think it'll be interesting to see, if the Raptors make it to the finals, if that'll be enough to keep Kawhi Leonard, if he'll be comfortable to stay in Toronto because, after this playoff season, the futures of a lot of teams could change. And one of them, the Golden State Warriors. What's going to happen if Kevin Durant leaves? What's going to happen if Boogie Cousins doesn't come back? What's going to happen if Klay Thompson leaves? What happens? Where are they? And you have to wonder if this could be the end. Are they going to finish off this run on a good note, or are they in trouble the way that the Rockets have really battled and gotten a lot of big game and winning plays from James Harden? And I think that the Warriors are in a good spot because if it takes Eric Gordon going 7 of 14, hitting 50% of his three-point shots and 20-point games and, really elevating his game beyond something he's ever done before, and you're losing by 2 possessions, well, then there's just a couple of things you need to clean up. But you have to wonder if they're going to be one of those teams, if this is the last stand, the last hoorah with this band, how are they going to respond? And the Rockets don't look like they're going away. They've killed the Warriors on the boards. A lot of them are long rebounds, but nonetheless, they were there for everybody to take, and the Rockets kept getting them. What are the Warriors going to do, and what happens if they go down 3-2? I think the assumption is they're going to win at home, but if they don't, do they have it in them to win 2 in a row this year against the Rockets? Do the Rockets have it in them to finish off the Warriors at home?
We talk about a lot of shooting in this series. We talk about both teams chunking up threes. The Rockets have the edge in that right now, which is crazy because they've been throwing up a ton. But one thing that kind of is getting swept under the rug is the toughness that the Rockets exude that the Warriors don't. I see a lot of times, going up for the rebound, you got PJ Tucker literally out-rebounding Kevin Durant. That's hard. Even if PJ Tucker is not having a great shooting game, he's saying, you know what, I'm going to impact this game in another way. Eric Gordon, if I'm not having a great shooting game, I'm going to impact this game in another way. And those second chance opportunities, those offensive rebounds, or even there will be times where it's 3 or 4 Warriors around the ball. I don't know if they're waiting on the ball just to come down to them, but that's a problem. You're not entitled to the ball just because the offense misses the shot. So if a guy wants to go up and get an offensive rebound and there's 3 of you all surrounding him, that's effort. That's hard. That's something that you're lacking. And as the NBA champs, as one of the greater teams in NBA history, you can find yourself in some big trouble if you let those little things really turn into big things.
And see, this is something that I never thought would expose itself in this playoff run for Golden State. I thought that knowing that this offseason has a lot of different moving pieces coming up, I thought that they would be so focused that they would go on a madman type of run to the NBA Finals. I didn't think that they would lose a single game to the Clippers. And now the way that they look in Houston, granted Houston is a much more comparable opponent for them, but they're exposing them. I thought that this would be the type of thing that would make Golden State lock in, but it's not. I'll be honest with you. I'm seeing a little bit of what we just talked about with Philly. I see a little bit of it in the Warriors. And it may be because of exactly what I just said, because they know this season, this offseason is going to bring a lot of changes. So that may have them, kind of not playing their best when I thought that would make them play their best, actually. So I'm kind of shocked. I'll be honest. I'm shocked that they look this vulnerable. And I know it's only been a couple possession games, but those are usually the types of things that the Warriors are able to capitalize on versus letting the other team capitalize on.
I'm just been most surprised about, both of the games were 2-possession losses for the Warriors. And when you look at them, there was a game where Steph Curry had 4 missed layups and a missed dunk. They had 2 unforced turnovers by Draymond Green in Game 4 in the fourth quarter, where they were on a run and Draymond just ran the ball up the court and dribbled the ball out of bounds. So when you're talking about 1 and 2 possessions, it becomes about making smart plays and simple plays. The Warriors also one of the best free throw shooting teams in basketball. They're shooting, much lower than their percentage of 80% during the regular season. So they just need to execute, or else they could find themselves in big trouble. I don't know. I'm trying not to disrespect the Rockets because I appreciate what they have done, but some of the inflicted wounds have been self-inflicted by the Warriors.
Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. Now, Steph Curry had his best game last game, having 30 points, 12 or 25 shooting. Okay, cool. But Klay, I'm waiting for him to wake up. Now, some people saying, well, he's not getting enough opportunities. I don't know if that's the case or not, but he's not been able to get going like you would expect him to. And we know that when it comes to shooting, I don't think there's anybody in NBA history that can get on a hot streak shooting like he can. He may not be the greatest three-point shooter. He may be top 5, but no one, I don't think in that top 5 can get as hot as he can when it comes to shooting the basketball. We've seen him score 36 points in 20-some-odd minutes. But I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, and he was saying that the reason why he feels as though they can't get into a groove when it comes to Klay and Steph is because they're leaning on Kevin Durant too much.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, makes sense. And I agreed with him to an extent. I said yes, but I also think it's just their shots aren't falling. Because when they're at home, their shots are falling. They're much more comfortable and much more confident, it looks like, when it comes to taking those shots. But when they're on the road, it seems as though especially Steph, it seems like he's forcing his shot sometimes.
And the bench. They haven't gotten much out of the bench.
No.
Where is when you look at the championship runs, Andre Iguodala has come in and played well. But when you look at, what they're not getting, consecutive games of guys coming off the bench to help them. And Sean Livingston is a big part of that. He hasn't come out and had a double-digit game. He hadn't come out and had a good run with the reserve unit. And the Warriors, when you get deep into the advanced stats, they're the highest shooting percentage team right at the rim, 5 feet and less, and they're not getting those shots. A lot of those are coming from the outside. If not for Draymond Green and Iguodala, KD is the only other person getting to the rack. They need to move the ball. They need to get a little bit more motion and get a little bit help off the bench, I think.
I think we talked about this last week. That's why I had exactly what you just pointed out, the fact that they're getting or not getting easy shots is the opposite of what I thought would happen. I thought that Golden State would be able to get all of the easy shots, and that would be the determining factor in the series. Like, whoever can score the easiest without having to put out the maximum effort to get those shots would win. But the fact that they're not able to get in the paint the way that they normally are, like, I think that skews things. That throws everything completely off. Klay's not hitting his shots from outside. Steph isn't consistently hitting his shots from outside. I don't think he's not getting enough opportunities. His shots just aren't falling.
Not falling.
Everything will regress back to the mean. You've got, just like you said, 7 out of 14 from Gordon, but that'll come back to normal. He can absolutely do that on a every now and then basis, but you can't expect him to come out and hit 7 threes every game. Klay, you can't expect him to hit no threes every game. Things will regress back to the mean, and I think eventually Golden State does pull it out.
And one of the reasons why Golden State is not getting the easy shots, we saw a lot of calls being made early along in this series. There was a call, seemed like every 5 seconds about something. But if those calls are not being made and the officials allow them to play, advantage Houston. It's always advantage to the underdog because they're the scrappier team. They're playing with a little bit more heart. They have to be physical with them in order to kind of even the playing field. So they've allowed them to play a little bit. And if they're going to continue this trend, it doesn't bode well for Golden State because they're expecting certain calls. Now, on the flip side of that, Houston expects a lot of calls too, especially with James Harden and the way they shoot. So it could kind of even out as well. But when it comes to those tough plays, those actually inflicting your will, rebounding, offensive rebounding, just being tougher than the other team, hey, I got to give props to Houston. I really do. And if that trend continues, that's going to be what wins the series for them. They're scoring, yes, but getting those second and third opportunities on the offensive end is what's really going to do it.
They got to work a little bit harder. That's what it is. I mean, they're not as talented, so they do have to put in a little bit more work.
Yeah, maybe they just been, the team that has had the more dog in them. That's what it looks like. They're getting the loose balls, and P.J. Tucker, the way he's been rebounding, offensive rebounds, total rebounds. Rebounds are effort and want to, and right now the Rockets have the want to, but nothing really has been decided. Best 2 out of 3. Both teams protected home court, so we're getting exactly what we needed. We didn't need this. Max Kellerman, look, we all are in the opinion business.
He should have kept this one.
Everybody is not going to like what you say, what I say. Everybody's not going to like what Max Kellerman says. But when he says that Kawhi Leonard is better in the clutch than Kobe Bryant, you got to know a whirlwind is coming.
I know whatever he was on when he said that is illegal in New York. I know it is. It's got to be. Matter of fact, it's probably illegal in all 50 states.
Well, we touched on it. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Kawhi didn't play last year. Kawhi only played 60 games this year. Max Kellerman may not have seen Kawhi play at all.
He may not have seen Kobe Bryant play at all.
Evidently, he hasn't. And he's obviously a prisoner of the moment. And Kawhi is on a stretch right now. But that still doesn't get him the respect of a Kobe Bryant. I don't know that Kawhi Leonard has the ability to reach the level of a Kobe Bryant in his career. I honestly don't. So to make that comparison, I can see the similarities in their game. I can see how Kawhi can remind you of Kobe, but when you take it that next step further and say that he's more clutch than Kobe, that's doing too much, man. You're doing way too much at that point.
Why can't we give people credit without us going to just egregious and just foolish levels? I can credit Kawhi. Look, he's balling. I can even say that, hey, between him and KD, we can discuss who's been having the best playoffs. We could discuss that. But for you to take the run that he's having right now and then compare it to an all-time great in Kobe Bean Bryant, bruh, you too much dip on your chip. Way too much dip. That chip is not thick enough for you to have all that dip on there. That is a lot.
3 words to me. Just stop it. Just stop it. Okay? Kobe Bryant is done. His career's done. We all saw it. Those who didn't see it can Google it. They can go to NBA.com. They can go to YouTube. It's done.
Has Kobe responded to that?
Kobe's not going to.
I would love to hear what Kobe got to say about that, man.
He's not going to.
Coach his daughter's basketball games is what Kobe Bryant should do. Go to bed and get up and eat his cereal. That's what
Talk like that is going to make Kobe come out of retirement for one game. Like, you can't throw stuff like that out there, man. Like,
I think that man's so at peace now, bro. I think it's like, look, the fact that you're even bringing my name up is the simple. That's just keeping my name in rotation some way, somehow, which it will always be anyway. But saying stuff like this and then having literally the Kobe cavalry come behind him and be like, "Hey, slow down, bro. This not what you want." Kobe's sitting back just smiling somewhere. It's like, this idiot,
like Thanos on his island in his garden.
I'm chilling, bro. I've already brought the destruction that I wanted to bring. I'm chilling now.
Do you not remember me? Like, how quickly we forget, Max Kellerman. How quickly we forget.
Does he need to go to YouTube? Do they need to call Kobe and Kobe need to explain something? Because I know they got the capability to do that. I mean, what needs to be done in order for him to kind of take this statement back? Pull it on, bring it back, bro.
If you mean it, stand on it. Stand on it, buy it, around it. If you mean it, don't take it back. I don't know. He's usually a better prognosticator, and even when he's throwing stuff at the board, he's better than that. Thought it was a bad moment. He's standing on it. 2 days in a row he went with it. But, no, I do not think Kawhi Leonard is better in the clutch than Kobe Bryant.
Has there even been a clutch moment for Kawhi?
And there it is.
This playoff series?
And there it is.
Like, what I don't even understand what warrants that statement. Like, the clutch part of it.
And I would also ask who's played with the better talent throughout their career. Would it be Kobe Bryant and what he had with Shaquille O'Neal, the first rendition of the Lakers when he was great? Or would it be the Pau Gasol, Metta World Peace? Or would it be Kawhi Leonard with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, who are all going to the Hall of Fame?
Consistently, it's been Kawhi. Yeah. Consistently, it's been, because you got to take, like you said, Kobe Bryant had two different stints where even as good as Pau Gasol is, and the health, the shakiness of Andrew Bynum, because even when they went to the finals in 2008, when they played the Celtics, Andrew Bynum wasn't there. He was hurt, and Pau was playing the center. And obviously, Pau helped get them to the next level. But the simple fact that they just could not depend on Andrew Bynum, it was Kobe and Pau. That was it. So come on, Max. Hey, bro, you gonna have to really eat this L. That's gonna be an L that you're gonna be chewing on for quite some time. So you just gotta deal with it, bro.
All right, we'll be back next week here on the Drop Step Podcast. I want to say thanks and a shout out to Shaq Food Radio and ShaqFoodRadio.com for their partnership. Next week we'll be in the conference finals. We'll have the Final Four, and 4 teams will have a shot to go to the NBA Finals. So that should be a lot of fun heading closer to the summer, and it should be a lot of fun to see which teams are going to be able to overpower the other with some really good competitive games ahead. For Book the Hook, B-Dog, I'm Home Team. We'll see you next time on the Drop Step Podcast.
We out.
Peace.
Make sure you comment, rate, and subscribe to the Drop Step Podcast on Apple Podcasts for iPhone users and Podbean for Android devices. You can also hear the podcast on Wednesdays and Saturday nights on the Shaq Food Radio app.